guys, so I'm sorry if the setup is kind of whack. This was kind of a last minute video. I had some time while my husband's on the phone doing some work stuff. McKenna's down for bed and Bradley's having a snack before bed, so it's the perfect time to try and film while everybody's occupied. Quietness does not happen very often in my home, so I'm sorry that it has been so long since my first video. I have a series planned, it's just finding time to film it, but I wanted to bring this to you before I started the series, just to kind of explain what it's going to be and kind of just introduce you a little bit more to my family and just what this is going to be. So as I said in the first video, my name is Elise. Yes, I go by my middle name, so technically my name is Erica Elise Rogers, but I go by my middle name. I've always gone by my middle name, so that is what I go by. I will be 30 this year, which is crazy to say, but it is true. So I will be 30 in August, and I have, like I said previously, a 3-year-old little boy. His name is Bradley, and I have a 1-year-old little girl. Her name is McKenna, and my husband is, I can't remember how old he is half the time. He is 36. He'll be 37, I believe, or he's 36 or 37. Forgive me, I lose track of his age, but you get the point. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about our family and, like I said, explain the series that I have planned for this channel. And I'm gonna try and upload twice a week. I realized after putting the first video up and having plans to film numerous times and it never working out, that more than that right now is probably not likely. So I don't want to promise anything bigger than I can do. So I'm going to try to do 2 a week, starting with this video. So let's see. So like I said, my husband and I, we met when I was actually 17. He had just gotten back from his second tour with the Marines. So I actually was not with him at all during any of his tours or his deployments. When he got back, he was still reserve and he had like a year left. I don't even think a full year left in his contract before it was up. And as I said previously, he was wounded when he was in Iraq. And just to give you a brief description of what happened, in 2005, which is when this happened, on July 12th, he was in Iraq, and he actually was supposed to have been on the same Humvee as his brother, or in the same Humvee as his brother. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he has a twin brother, and they deployed both times together. And a lot of people always ask, you know, I didn't think that brothers would deploy together, so why did they deploy them together? That was kind of a World War II thing. That's not really the case anymore. So they did deploy together. They did do missions together. They just never put them in the same vehicle. So he was actually in the vehicle with his twin brother. And because they both were in that vehicle, they ended up switching him out into another Humvee. And that Humvee is the one that ended up running over the landmine. And this was, I guess, he would do a better job of explaining this because I wasn't there, so I'm going off of what he's told me in pictures and stories. But essentially, I guess this is like a route that they traveled regularly looking for landmines and things of that nature. And so the enemy knew they were coming and set this up, and it was essentially like a trap. And they ran over it, and I will find a picture and see if we can insert the picture to show you what his Humvee looked like. So if I can find a way to insert that, I will insert that now. And so basically, it was almost like someone took a sledgehammer and just slammed up right on his tailbone. The way that he explained it was he was actually in the process of removing his Kevlar helmet when the blast happened, so thankfully he did not take it off. If he had removed his helmet when that happened, he probably would not be here today. Now then, the helmets did not have the padding and the cushions. Like today, they're almost like bicycle helmets, and they have a lot of padding in them so that they can stop shrapnel, but so that they don't get concussions and brain injuries like they did when my husband was in. So even though he was wearing his helmet, it was like his skull slammed against a really hard piece of metal. So he was knocked unconscious, and his eardrums were busted. He was bleeding from the ears. He was literally bruised from head to toe, and I don't have any pictures. He didn't take any pictures. You also have to remember this was 2005, so they pretty much had disposable cameras as their only option of taking pictures. And I guess in that moment, no one was thinking about taking pictures, which is understandable. So we don't have any pictures, but my husband is a very sturdy man and does not bruise easily at all. And from what I have been told by his brother and his friends, he was bruised like from head to toe. He was out. Nobody really knows how long he was out for. But when he came to, he felt and his legs were there. So he was, checked a few parts of his body to make sure that those parts were still there. And then the rest of it, he was kind of like, okay, I'm alive. I'm here. Let's do this. And he actually he actually demanded that they send him back out on more missions after he was wounded. He didn't want to leave his guys hanging, and they obviously couldn't let him, so he finished out his tour. They did not send him home like a medical evac situation, because it was so close to them coming home that they wanted to let him, and he wanted to stay with his unit, so he did not choose to come home early. He stayed with them. I don't know how long he was in medical for, but he came home, and that happened in July. I met him the end of September, beginning of October of that year. So by the time I met him, there was really no trace of any of this. I had no idea that he had even been wounded. My friend who introduced us did tell me he had a Purple Heart, but again, I didn't really know what that meant. So I didn't think anything of it. And we just kind of became friends. We had a big group of friends that hung out all the time. And he and I just started to hang out a little more one-on-one without everybody else around. And it sort of became like this everyday thing that we would hang out. And then we started talking on the phone for hours and hours and hours on end. And it just kind of blossomed from this friendship into this really flirty relationship. And Christmas of that year, we officially started dating. And the rest is history. So we've been together since December of 2005. So we have been through a lot, and I'm just going to give you in this video just kind of a brief run through of what has gotten us to this point again, so you can understand our family and so you can understand why I feel like I'm a good person to help others going through these situations. So we married in 2009. We were living together. He was working a full-time job. I was working a full-time job. He was out at this point, so he had finished up his tour. And essentially what happens is, I guess they finish their actual physical going to drill and going, and then they have a year after that where their paperwork is being processed. I think it's called INR, I think. And so when we got married, he was in that position. So right after we got married, he got his official discharge papers. Now with my husband, he was honorably discharged, and most people will be honorably discharged unless something bad happens, and then you would be dishonorably discharged or other than honorable conditions, or you can be medically discharged or medically retired, as I said in my previous video, and he was actually just honorably discharged. The way they did it then, and sometimes still do today, is guys that are so close to the end of their tour, instead of medically discharging them, they just let them finish their tour as normal, because it's less paperwork. It takes a lot less time to discharge if it's just an honorable discharge. So that's why they did it that way. And at the time, he didn't know that that was essentially screwing he and his family over. So he went with it. I mean, you trust your superiors to do what's best for you, and unfortunately sometimes there's just too much paperwork, and it's just easier to do things one way than to do it the right way, and that's what happened with him. So he was honorably discharged. Again, like I said, we were married. He was working, I was working. We started trying in 2011 for kids, and found out at the end of 2012 from a fertility doctor that we actually were not going to be able to have children. It was a 1 in a million shot that we could ever get pregnant. So we began our journey of infertility and trying to decide if we wanted to adopt, or if we wanted to try in vitro, or what our journey was going to be, because we knew we wanted kids. That's something we always were on the same page about. We always knew we wanted kids. So we were kind of on this journey now, and that was a big part of our lives for a while. And in the midst of that is when he got sick. So in May of 2012, leading up to then, he had been having dizzy spells and mood swings and night terrors kind of all around like PTSD type of stuff. And again, I'm not ever going to get into too much detail or share too much of that, because that is not for me to share, and it's not necessary for the story or for the help that I'm offering. So please don't ask any personal details about that, because I'm not going to share that. But he was having some symptoms or some side effects that we did not know were signs that seizures were on the brink. So he was having dizzy spells, he was having cluster headaches or suicide headaches. He had a lot of back pain. He was having, like I said, dizzy spells. So with his vision, his hearing was obviously off from where his eardrums had been blown out. He had a lot of complications, but he was still functioning. And then in May of 2012 is when he started literally out of nowhere having seizures. He had been fine, and then this particular day, which was May, I can't remember the date anymore, May 4th, I think. Yeah, I think it was May 4th. It was a normal day. We both had the day off. I actually was not working at that time. I had been let go. So I was in the process of looking for a job, and he was still working full time. This day he was off. We were hanging out at the house. My brother came over. Everything seemed normal, but looking back at it, he was a little bit out of it and kind of just not really there. He was kind of just blank behind the eyes. And we did everything like we normally would. We hung out, we went for a walk, we ordered pizza, we watched movies, and in the middle of us eating dinner, he started to seize. And at first we thought he was joking. That's how out of the blue it was. It wasn't like I essentially or initially jumped to seizures. I actually thought he was joking. I know that might sound weird, but that's, the relationship we had. We thought he was joking. Both my brother and I kind of started laughing at first, and then we realized, no, he's really having a seizure. The rest of that time frame from him starting the seizure to the ambulance arriving, I don't really remember much. It was a blur. I remember calling 911, or I don't remember dialing the phone, but I remember them on the phone, them telling me what to do, me freaking out, thinking that my husband was dying in front of my eyes. And after we got to the hospital, and they kind of explained what had happened, and I explained his history with his brain injury, and they kind of explained that sometimes when the brain is healing from a traumatic brain injury, there can be a misconnection in the healing process, and that's more than likely what happened in his case, and that sometimes these things can take 20 years to surface. So you may have a brain injury, like in my husband's case in 2005, and then 7-8 years later is when you really start to see the circumstances and the side effects of that brain injury. So that was crazy to learn. And I immediately went into nurse mode and started researching and doing all that I could to be able to help him and understand what was going on with him. We found out about different programs. We began the disability process. We started all of that in 2012, and we did not get his disability completely finished, everything as it should be, until August of last year. So it took us, 6 years of different application processes and having to go through 2 or 3 different appointment, like evaluations to get his status to where it should be. My children, I had to fight for about 3 years for them to have insurance, and it's only being backdated to August of this past year. So my son's health care from the time he was born to August of last year, we have to come out of pocket for that. It's just a really weird situation that we are in, because we fall in this little teeny tiny section of veterans and disabled veterans who don't qualify for all of these certain benefits, and it's mostly because of the way my husband was discharged. So that's why I do have a list of things that I want to talk about, a series I'm going to be starting called What Now, and that's going to be helping the actual military person themselves or the family members know what to do in all these different scenarios, so that you can get the proper benefits, that you can be discharged properly, that you can have a better experience with your VA life than we did, because it just took so long, so many hoops, and I couldn't find much help on the internet, because again, you got to think, YouTube wasn't as big as it is now, so we didn't have videos like this to go to, but that's what I want this to be. So that's just to give you a generalized, very summed up version of what's gotten us to this point. As I said in the first video, we are had just been announced as recipients of Operation Coming Home. I was going to vlog last Saturday. They had an open house at the new Veteran Corps location, but I forgot the camera. That's the way my brain works, and we had a lot going on. So I'm going to be documenting and vlogging that whole process once we meet with them and begin the process. It's probably not going to start until July. Is when we're going to be breaking ground and everything. So the Operation Coming Home stuff probably won't be as prevalent until July. So leading up to July, I really want to focus on helping military and veterans and family members navigate this crazy VA system and get you guys the benefits that you and your loved ones have earned. So the series is going to be called What Now? And I'm just going to tell you the first few series that I have, or the first few videos I have in this series. So the first one is going to be My Loved One is Home from Combat, Now What? And that's going to be more along the lines of how you can be emotionally supportive for your combat veteran as they return home from a combat zone. The second one in this series is going to be My Loved One is Discharging, Now What? Meaning they're getting ready to discharge from the military, they're retiring, or they're just medically or honorably discharging, and now what? And I'm going to give you a lot of contact information and websites and phone numbers and things that you should do even before they get out, and then once they're out, who you need to speak to, where you need to go to get the proper benefits. The third one is My Loved One was Denied Benefits, Now What? That's very, very, what is the word I'm looking for? Common, that you will be denied. Most of the time, if you apply on your own, you're going to be given a very low rating, if you're even given a rating at all. It's a lot more likely for you to get closer to your actual rating if you have someone like an attorney or representative that does this, that can help you. So I'm going to be giving all of that information in the, if they're denied, and what avenues, how to appeal it, where you can go, who you can talk to, as far as VA benefits go. And then the fourth one is My Loved One was Wounded while serving, Now What? So if they were medically, or if they were wounded while serving, what needs to happen when they come home? What do you need to do? So those are the first, 4 in the Now What series that I'm going to be doing. And I am going to do some vlogs, probably just kind of sprinkled in whenever I can remember to pick the camera up. But that's kind of what I have planned upcoming. I'll do another vlog in the day, maybe tomorrow, where I can introduce you and show you my husband and my kids and kind of let them speak to you and just let you get to know all of us. But I just wanted to do this because the series is very important to me. I really want to be able to help veteran families be able to navigate this, because I'm telling you from experience, from 13, 14 years of experience now, it is not an easy thing to go through, emotionally or physically. It's like a maze. I mean, finding your way through this on your own is near impossible. So that's why I want to be here to offer help through my experience. And I don't know if I prefaced any of my other videos or my other video, I only have one, with this or not, but disclaimer. Anything that I do on this channel is simply my opinion and from my experience. I am not any type of legal counsel, a marriage counselor, financial, emotional psychology, nothing. I have no, credentials in anything. It is just a veteran's wife helping other veteran families because of the experiences and the mistakes that we made in our journey with the VA. So that is all that is. So please don't take anything that I say as sound legal advice or psychological advice. It's just my opinion from our experience. And also, this probably goes without saying, but just in case, please, if you are the family member of a veteran or if you are the veteran yourself, thank you for your service. And if you're the family member, please express this to your loved one. But I appreciate the military so much, and I know that I would not be here if it wasn't for the sacrifice of the men and women before me. And today in our country, as broken as it is, I don't want to forget the people who built this country. So thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you have any video ideas or anything that you want me to cover, I will list an email in the description box. And again, don't forget, if you or your loved one are into board gaming, specifically war board games, check out my husband, Gimpy Gamer. I will link him in the description box below. Go check him out. Go subscribe to his channel. He does lots of videos, lots of content, and he's really, really good at it, and he enjoys it. So thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye, guys.